is he your favourite character you've ever played? And if he isn't, then who is?
It's very hard to choose one. I've been so lucky to play some really interesting characters. Caesar is one of my favourite characters.
Lovely to see you. Congratulations on the movie. I think Luther fans are really going to love it. I wanted to get your thoughts on something before we start, though. Andy Serkis, National Treasure. What do you think of that?
National treasure. Wow, I've never really thought of myself as a national treasure because I've always played such strange, marginalised characters. So I can't. I find that those words hard to put together.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I've asked a couple of people that, and yeah, the answers are always the same. It's like, please never think of me as a national treasure. So totally get that. So, well, from one national treasure to another, I imagine spending time with Idris on the set of Luther must just be such a great experience. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think is Idris Elba's own superpower? Because he's so successful and he's so lovely. But what was the main thing you took away from working with him?
It's interesting because Idris has a much bigger mission in life, I think, apart from being an actor. He's a real communicator, storyteller. He wants to enable lots of people who feel underrepresented across the world. He is a real force, and acting as only one part of it, and it's a very strong part of it and powerful, and he's such a great actor and an extraordinary performer to work alongside. But I do think that he has missions that go well beyond it, and I think that's what's so exciting about him as a human being.
You know what they did to my son?
I need to stop this man. I'm still a copper.
Not anymore.
Obviously, Luther is known for having so many iconic villains, and as intense as I can imagine it must be, it also must just be really fun to play a villain. So I'm going to ask you the question, but you should never ask actors. But I'm going to ask you: is he your favourite character you've ever played? And if he isn't, then who is?
Wow. Look, I really did enjoy the uncovering of this role, and playing opposite Idris was a huge pleasure. It was tough. It was really hard work. Some of those fight sequences, again, not giving too much away, but were brutal. It's very hard to choose one. I've been so lucky to play some really interesting characters. Caesar is one of my favourite characters. I think, playing a character all the way through from birth to through the course of 3 movies to death was an evolving ape, was a real challenge. But I did have a great time playing David Roby, and there was so much room for exploration there. So it was a really wonderful job.
Yeah, definitely. So David is a really such a frightening character, and I think he's a really fantastic Luther villain. And it got me thinking. I think it's about time we saw Andy Serkis as a Bond villain. What do you think of that?
It's interesting because I think I'd be interested to know whether you could go to as dark a level in a Bond movie, and that's what's so wonderful about Luther is that it has that capacity to, although it's an elevate, and in this particularly this iteration, which is a movie and is elevated and is on a bigger platform, and Luther World is a much bigger world and an iconic kind of it feels it is a movie. And so treading the balance of I still think what we've managed to do is make him a Luther villain without cartoonizing him in any way or making him too over the top. And my only concern with a Bond villain is that can you ever really plumb the depths that you kind of need to do? So it's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's almost like on the face of it, Bond villains, like the shallow side is that they're evil, and with Luther you can go into so much more detail. So yeah, I totally understand. Did you meet with any? I don't want to say serial killers, but did you meet with anyone whilst you were taking on this role?
Part of me wanted to really get, because this is so much about someone who exists online and is very much it works in the world of the dark web and so on. It's very difficult to access those people, and those are the people I really wanted to connect with, but they're virtually impossible to actually, connect with. So I just had to really use my imagination and what information I could find out about that world. And I mean, everything that happens in the movie is feasible and possible, and that is what's scary, and that's what is great about Neil Cross's excellent writing, is that it always feels grounded and it is practical. It's not, there's nothing fantastical or super fantasy about it or science fictiony about it. It's a world we've all chosen to live in. And actually, one of the things that is most frightening about David Roby as a character is, we're all complicit in the sort of desensitization of getting information from the internet and not really being affected by it. We're obsessed with true crime. We are, we like to look at the dark side of our own natures. When there's a car crash, we like to look over and see what's happened. It's inbuilt into the human condition to want to sort of look at the dark side of our natures. I think it's a really interesting way of looking at ourselves.
He's got like such an interesting look, and I'll be honest, it was quite shocking when I realised it was you. Was there anyone you based your look on, or was there a particular look that you guys were after?
I wanted something that was. I mean, he sort of shapeshifts to a particular in a particular way, but I wanted something that felt constructed, like he's had to work really hard at the way he's put himself together. He doesn't really, it's like nothing quite adds up to him, because he doesn't because he is a psychopath, a true psychopath, in the sense that he can't really feel, so he can only connect with people through observing and watching. So it's almost like he's grabbed little bits of people that he's observed and sort of put them together, so they don't quite fit. So there's a sort of an oddness about him in a way that, it's not quite real, but it's his version of it.
No, I totally get that. It's saying that, I can just sort of picture him, and it's like, yeah, there's just something which, like, yeah, exactly, whether it's the hair, whether it's the eyes, exactly. And you're known for putting in so much time into like building your characters, whether it's motion capture or not. So I was wondering, across your whole career, what has been the most amount of work that you've ever put into to build a character?
Wow. Well, you know what? There was a film I did years ago called Topsy Turvy, a Mike Leigh film about Gilbert and Sullivan, the opera, and we worked on that film for 9 months in terms of just character work before we actually shot. And I was playing a choreographer whose name was John Doban, and he choreographed all the Savoy operas which they wrote and produced. And so I learnt to dance, and I learnt choreography. I had to learn the violin. I learnt the choreography for every single show that they ever produced. It was a really, and then you're also living in a 19th century world, so it was investigating that very thoroughly and being in character for long periods of time. Lots of improvisation.
Awesome. Well, annoyingly, I have to wrap. I feel like I could talk to you for another hour, but thank you so much for your time. Congrats on the movie, and hopefully chat to you again as a Bond villain. That'd be great.
Cheers, thank you.
Cheers, Andy.
Why does he make an announcement?
He wants the world to think his bad dream has come true.
It's funny that I get him before you get me.
Make it 50.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Kevin Hart.
Hi, my name's Eric Stonestreet.
Hi, I'm Margot. I'm Journey.
I'm James McAvoy.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe.
I'm Rebel Wilson.
I'm Jeremy Clarkson.
I'm going to be translating some Scottish tweets for It's Gone Viral.
On It's Gone Viral.
Ooh. On It's Gone Viral.